Okay, here we are today with another episode of the We United podcast, and we are here live with Wendy Covey from True Marketing. Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Jackie.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful today. It's a sunny afternoon in Austin, Texas.
Yay! It is a sunny afternoon here in Southern California, although I am very removed from the fires, which is a very good thing. We send out our thoughts and prayers to all of those who are impacted, but it is sunny down here in Dana Point, California.
Good.
Yes. Okay. Well, we decided to have this podcast today because for all of our listeners, we support Wendy Covey and her mission to market to in the technical world, and she's going to explain a lot more about that. But I'm so excited to have her on for so many different reasons because I think she has some great marketing best practices. But she has the summit coming up, so please tune in to this entire episode because there's so many good nuggets I want you to hear about from Wendy. But with that, Wendy, I'm going to start with: can you please just introduce yourself and True Marketing, and what specifically do you do, and how do you serve the electronic component industry in particular?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate all that you do for the women in electronics community and for me specifically for inviting me to be a part of it. So really appreciate that. I founded True Marketing or co-founded True Marketing in 2008. So if you're a good math person in your head, that's about 17 years ago. And formerly was at a company called National Instruments, or NI, which is now part of Emerson. And we recognized the need for technical companies to have marketers that truly understand how to reach technical buyers, because it's different than just regular B2B marketing, right? These engineers and technical buyers, they're very skeptical of marketing. They're very cautious when it comes to researching solutions for their applications. And it takes a high degree of accuracy and just a nuanced approach to marketing. And so when we started the business, that's all we knew. Really, most of our careers were at NI, and we knew how to reach this audience and felt that it was an underserved need. And so we decided to start the agency, work with these companies, and along with that, help educate on how to reach these buyers.
Ooh, okay. So I have to say, I love that you're doing that and that you're very research based. My biggest pet peeve, okay, I know some of my marketing people listening to this are probably going to be a little annoyed, but I got to say this. I don't think that everybody is research based. And I don't believe that people all the time who don't have a technical background and who have a marketing background always understand, right, the difference between engaging with the technical audience, right? And so there's some best practices with marketing, but also engaging with the technical audience. So that's where I think that you have those capabilities to bring both together, and what I really love about your organization. But I don't know if you want to comment on that. Is that part of the need of why you started? I don't know.
Jackie, it's so true. We have companies that come to us that have had a bad experience with agencies because they didn't take the time to truly understand what their solutions are, who their audience is, and how to speak to them, right? They're just trying to quickly throw something together. They're not being careful, and of course, doesn't produce any results. So it does take a different approach. It's true, whether it's our agency or others that specialize in this niche, it's really important to have somebody who has that experience. So what we do, in addition to having people that have worked in the industry that are very careful and methodical in their approach, is we also perform primary research on how engineers and technical buyers seek and consume information to make purchase decisions. So we do this annual research report, and it helps, quite frankly, inform us on what marketing advice we should give to our clients, as well as, for the greater good of all of us marketers that are trying to just be more prescriptive in what we do.
I love that. Okay, wait, speak real quick. We're going to get into a lot of stuff, but speak to that report real quick, because I think that is a really helpful, useful document for a lot of people, current marketing people, explain more about this
Yeah, it's called the State of Marketing to Engineers, and
Mhm.
this year in 2025, this will be our 8th year to produce this with Global Spec as our partner.
Mhm.
And if you know Global Spec, and I know that you do, they have a vast database. So they're a
Yes.
wonderful partner because their database is a huge asset for the company, right? So
Okay.
they keep it current. They put a lot of investment in those names, and so we end up with a survey where we have over 1,000 people respond, which is a huge sample size to be able to rely on the data year after year and look at these trends.
Mhm.
So this March, first week in March, we'll release our 2025 report, and it looks at things like what social media platforms do engineers use? Do they
Mm.
trust generative AI platforms? Do they trust sponsored content where you know that
Mm.
somebody is paying to put an article in front of you? We ask branding
Mm.
questions. How do you evaluate, or what's important to you in a corporate brand, or when you're evaluating technical credibility about a company? What aspects are important? And of course, that particular one is so informative to a marketer that's working on brand messaging and positioning. What do they care about, and how does that align with my company?
Mm. I love that, Wendy, because it's very data driven, and we're very data driven here. So I like that. I'll throw out one more pet peeve before we get into the rest of the interview. There's a lot of people that I'm seeing that maybe it's because we're in a world of social media and people tend to steal content versus take content that's useful and put their own opinions on it. That is one of my biggest pet peeves being a journalist major, is that I think we have blurred those lines. We've lost all this journalistic honor and credibility that we once had, because everybody on the internet is now some, journalist, right? And so I really appreciate organizations that adhere to some ethical standards in marketing, where it's not people just stealing other people's content, trying to capitalize on it. So anyway, that's one of my biggest marketing pet peeves, but
Yeah, and it doesn't win long term if you're just trying to create some, nuanced version of somebody else's message. You're not living that message. That's not unique to your
yes.
company. So it won't win in search. It won't win in customers because they'll
Yeah.
end up paying through that. A prospect is
Yeah.
going to figure that out. So
Yes.
it's a very temporary shortcut that doesn't get you much farther.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So, having said that, here we are in the component industry, and we were introduced by a mutual colleague. Primarily, I know you from your work in the electronic component industry. Doesn't mean that it's your work is limited in just that industry, because there's technical engineers across many different industries. So, if you can explain that, how are you aligning in the component industry, and are there other markets you're serving?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking. So when we started out, one of our first, if you will, communities that we started to serve was system integration companies in test and
Mm.
measurement and control and automation, because right, that's very closely tied to NI. We had a lot of existing relationships. So that's where we started. And then we started to be found by other engineering companies, primarily those that are targeting design engineers. And that was
Mhm.
both on the hardware side with electronic components, some semiconductor companies, as well as some software companies, such as Ansys that creates engineering software. Another company that creates infotainment, like imagine designing the graphical elements of your infotainment system inside of your automobile. So we've worked in all three of those spaces, but the commonality is a complex solution targeted towards an engineer or a highly technical buyer. So if someone comes to us, for instance, and they say, "Oh, we're a valve company or a ball bearing," and that's manufacturing, and all of this touches manufacturing, but it's not a complex technology. So it's not to us as exciting as telling the story about a radar or an RF component or a test system that's doing something very unique.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty cool. I am super passionate about the innovations in our industry. That's part of what has kept me in this electronic component industry forever, because we just came off of, CES, and so many innovations there. It's just so exciting, really. This industry is very exciting. There's just a lot going on. So I know that you have this summit coming up. You just started it, I think, a couple years ago. So let's talk about that. What is the purpose of that? Is that just like to get your word out? Is it to get best practices out? What's the whole purpose of the summit you have coming up? And who's attending?
Okay. Well, we talked about education being a need, and part of it is a marketer at a highly technical company is a very isolating role.
Mm.
Many of us don't have an engineering background. We're
Yep.
needing to learn this complex technology, and at the same time, needing to
Mhm.
keep up with the fast pace of marketing and how much marketing has changed. So it can be a daunting task. And so it's important to surround yourself with other marketers, but more specifically, marketers within your industry that have similar challenges just helps you figure out how to navigate all of it. So that's always been a need, but the market, so as a marketer, there are marketing centric conferences, right? And so for example, HubSpot has one called Inbound that's right before COVID in their peak heyday, they had over 20,000 attendees.
Wow.
There's another one called the Content Marketing World, and that's one. So these are two for many years that we've attended as an agency. We presented at. And Content Marketing World in particular started having industry days where they focused on, in addition to the general marketing sessions, they would have a day for manufacturing marketers. And so we would be a presenter as part of that, and for many years. And in fact, now they still have master classes, and we still support them and come and present and attend those. But what happened in a couple years ago is we started talking to the other attendees and realized that there was a real appetite for not just a 1 day summit or a 2 hour masterclass, but having a full event that's just dedicated to marketers working in engineering and manufacturing to network, to lean on each other. So we went beyond just education. And so with
Hmm.
that, we decided to start this event with two partners that were both involved in the industrial marketing summit, as it were, with Content Marketing World, and that's Gorilla 76, which is another agency, and Cadina's Part Solutions, which is a 3D CAD software company. And
Hmm.
so we started the first event in 2024. We had over 200 attendees. It was very successful. It's here in Austin. And Jackie, the big takeaway for everyone, if we could have put a tagline on that, it was
Hmm.
this: I found my people. Because
Oh.
marketers, right? I get goosebumps even thinking about it. The programming was great, everything was great, but above everything else, it was like, wow, there's all these other marketers that understand my pain and my challenges working in this industry. And so anyway, so that was very motivating. Everyone wanted to come back. We're already growing year over year, and just excited to continue to serve the community in this way.
Okay, so who specifically? So people in marketing, are there engineers coming? Like who's all attending?
It is marketers. So when I look at the demographics of our first standalone event in 2024, everyone was a marketer, basically mostly mid-level to senior marketers. And the
Okay.
different industries included, engineering centric industries, again, targeting design engineers. So there you have electronic components and software and system integration. And then we saw manufacturing
Mhm.
companies. So think robotics and manufacturing parts. We had 3D printing was there. And then there were some software companies as well. So it
Okay.
truly was a mix, but all had this commonality of reaching this engineer and technical buyer as their, the specifier that they need to market to.
Okay, so that helps bring a little more clarity because the title of it is Industrial Marketing Summit, right?
Yes.
So explain that because I think of industrial as, uh, you know, just this. It's a different connotation to me, like people with, big units of equipment that they're manufacturing, and
Yeah.
coming from the component industry. Um, I look at that as is in a certain way, but what
Right.
does industrial mean to you?
Yeah, yeah. So, and I joke that if you look on Wikipedia, and it's like no one's going to do that, but
Right.
we were trying to find a shorthand name to say engineering and manufacturing. Like if you work and to differentiate from SaaS from IT, because that's more B2B
Yes.
technology marketing. And what we do in electronics, what we do in manufacturing, it is technology, but technology doesn't have the right connotation either. So
Right.
it's hard to frankly find the perfect label for it.
It
So I
is.
just need to get the word out that if you work in electronic components, if you work in semiconductor, if you work in automotive technology, if you work in test and measurement, if you work in manufacturing, you're all welcome here at the Industrial Marketing Summit because we're all doing the same thing at a B2B to B2B level, if you will, as marketers.
That's really helpful clarity, actually.
Good.
And it's really anybody, yes, who is in marketing, who has any kind of technical need, this spans across so many different industries. So I like that clarity.
Yeah.
And really, it's really interesting to note too, because we have the same issue sometimes because when people think tech, they think software.
Yeah.
That's
It is like
usually.
VMware and yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, they think all the
Salesforce.
software and all of that, but when,
Mhm.
in the component world, the electronic component industry is hardware, right? And the semiconductor industry is hardware. It's the chips,
Yeah.
it's the hardware. So, but it's still tech. It's still part of the tech
It's
world, and they're
absolutely still tech.
yes, and they're the innovators of a lot of this technology. So
Yeah.
it's kind of classic. So when people listening, when you hear tech, software and hardware, because we're
And
part of that.
system integration, which is in engineering services. I mean, all of
Yes.
those are a part of it too.
Yes, 100%. So anyway, that's how we see it. So now, separate from the summit, if you're looking at yourself, it's really amazing. I know at the beginning of the year, even at the end of the year, I was looking forward at the new year, going, okay, what's the new vision forward? Because all of our organizations are changing at just exponential rates because of technology's changing, the tools are changing, what we need from our workforce is changing. How we align with the future is so critical. So that is a question I had for you too, is like, what are you doing right now in your organization? What is your goal for this future, for this next year?
Yeah, yeah, gosh, there's so many ways I could answer your question. So let me pick a few. So, you mentioned the workforce changes, and we know that that's very real. We see the baby
Yeah.
boomers retiring. We see that us Gen Xers, we're too small. So the decisions are now
Yeah.
millennials and younger, and
Yeah.
also this knowledge transfer is an issue,
Yep.
right? So it's as a marketer understanding how differently the millennials and younger are seeking information and how they make decisions. They don't want to pick up the phone, even though they need the benefit of more help in
Yeah.
finding the right technical solution. They don't work that way, right?
Yeah.
So, how do we deliver information differently? So, that's a big change. Also, more and more, we're being tapped on recruiting campaigns. So think, just like a product launch, a recruiting campaign for a company, whether it's a culture campaign or literally helping candidates to find your company and be attracted and want to consider your company. That's marketing can play a really big role in that. So those are big ones. And in fact, in the Industrial Marketing Summit, we're going to be talking about those recruitment campaigns, working along supply chain. That's another one.
Mhm.
How we as marketers do more to work together with other companies to
Right.
leverage, look bigger, be bigger. So those are some industry specific ones. And then separately, we got to talk about AI. Right? Because that's changing one, how
Yeah.
we do our jobs, but two, how people seek information with generative AI answers being served up and more people going to places like Anthropic and ChatGPT and Perplexity to find answers and not Google. So big changes here.
Yeah, and I really think Michael, who introduced us, had said on a podcast recently, he said, let the machines do the computer work and let the humans do the human work. And I really think that that is true. I think if we could just embrace AI and let the AI do the things that are the real tedious computer related type of task things, and
Yes.
let the humans do the critical thinking, the strategy, and all of that, I think it's a really good model. I personally don't think, I think if you get displaced, this is a really tough thing to say. Some people might not like it. But if you're showing your value, if you're a person who's always willing to learn and grow and do things different and innovate, there's no such thing anymore of I got hired into this specific role and here's the specific task. It's always going to be changing. But if you're a person who's willing to grow and always evolve, you're probably not going to be out of a job. But if you're so tied to these, 1 to 2 to 3,
Yeah.
yes, you likely will be replaced by a machine at some point. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no other easy way to say it.
I think that's well said. And those of us old enough to remember when the World Wide Web came about and email came about, which is you and I,
Yes,
there was some uncertainty then. I mean,
there
once upon a
was.
time, for instance, just a silly little example, there was a marketer that would send out a series of emails and there's no scheduling them. There was no automated workflows or drip
Yes.
campaigns. There was a person that manually had to do all of that, and then software automated it. So what did that mean that marketer did? Were they out of a job? No. They worked smarter, they worked quicker, and they were able to do more strategic things with their time. And AI is no different. So it can be abused. We've seen that. You
Yeah.
mentioned using it
Yeah.
to replicate someone's content and be generic. I mean, those are bad examples, right?
Yeah.
So the key, my advice to people who feel a little bit behind is, one, it's okay. Everybody feels a little bit behind because we're all figuring it out. But it's imperative this year that you start to experiment, you learn
Mhm.
what works, and then you systematize that within your processes and your standard operating
Mhm.
procedures. And so we as an agency, for instance, spent the past 18 months experimenting and figuring out works better here than here. Oh, let's double
Mhm.
down here. Let's push it even further. And now that we've done that, now we're systematizing a lot of our use of AI, and we're starting to train GPTs to do branding and other work. So we're moving to this next layer of sophistication as we've been checking boxes of what works at a more tactical level.
I love that. We did something in this past year too. We're same thing. We're experimenting, but I'm a very technology embracing person. I really like to embrace the technology. But we created our own WeGPT, and what I love about that, it's like a chat, but on the back end, we were able to put in our internal messaging, our voice,
Yes.
do's, don'ts, things like
Right.
that, because when we have our marketing people behind the scenes that are utilizing it to not create the content, they draft it. We're very clear about that. They create the draft, they create all the ideas, and we put it in to reframe or to reword, basically, and it comes back with an executive level voice, and then our team will edit it, and then it'll come to me for approval. But it's really utilizing those those tools to streamline. Whereas at one time, our poor little Emily, who's in the back end here, would spend so much time trying to draft, a message and refine and refine. This really helps streamline that process. So
Yeah, it
tools like
does.
that.
And I think a misperception, yeah, misperception is that, oh, it'll be such a big time saver. And sometimes writing content, it's not necessarily a time saver, but it's meaning that your content goes deeper because you can do more
Yes.
research. You can see
Yes.
what's already out there to make sure what you're doing is unique.
Yes.
So yeah. So we're using it to increase the quality of things, but it's not necessarily like, oh, it's so
To
much more.
replace.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
yeah, there's still some things lacking on the writing. So, and then strategy development, having a brainstorm buddy when developing strategy. Is it going to develop strategy for me? No, because if it did, it would be generic. It would be me too. It wouldn't be what I need. It wouldn't be forward
Yes.
looking. But to brainstorm, absolutely.
Yes. Oh, I love that. But also, the key point here too is editing, editing, editing. I
Mhm.
really believe a lot of these companies now with marketing, an executive editor is the prime position that mostly nobody's thinking about. Editing is the key because the tool can create whatever it wants. It's really up to the organization to approve that message and to make sure it's the message you want for your
Yeah.
organization. So for instance, for us, we have all of our personas, but we create the content, we put it in to help reword in some cases when we can't
Yeah.
frame things in a way we want to, and then we edit and go from there. So it's one of those things too. I see a lot of people, you can almost just spot it when people put something in a in a
Yes.
GPT, and then it comes out and you're like, oh my goodness, like somebody
Like,
didn't look at that.
no.
Yeah.
A fun one, there's certain words that it abuses a lot, and in writing circles, everybody
Yes.
makes fun of. Like, I know delve was one of them, and I forget what else.
Yes.
There were a bunch of
Yes.
funny memes about that.
Yes, and another red flag is it likes to do the dashes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of commas, it likes to do the dashes. So a lot of things like that that you catch with all these tools. But are
Yeah,
there
I like
any
dashes.
other?
I'm not anti-dash.
You're not okay.
No.
So are there any other tools or any other best practices that you can provide the listeners, like anything that's worked really well?
Yeah, yeah. So, gosh, the main thing is, first, you need to know what your processes are, and then try
Mhm.
to eliminate steps in that process with
Hmm.
the tool. And everything I've read and everything we've experienced is true is, start with one of the base models. So your chat GPTs or whatever it is, use a paid model so that it's private, and start
Yep.
to knock through some of those tasks and experiment and see which are helpful and which are not. So that's one piece of advice. And then the other one is, look to where AI is baked into tools you already own. So if you're on Salesforce or
Hmm.
HubSpot, there's a lot of AI built in. And so how
Hmm.
can you leverage things that you're already paying for, and try, rather than go off and creating something from scratch, with
Yeah.
GPTs and stuff.
I
Um,
think that's a really good point, Wendy. And another thing too on that line is I would say for organizations to have a corporate account that their people use. I think it's very
yeah,
dangerous to be letting people use all their own personal accounts
very.
because the models start to train themselves, right? So if you have that one corporate account that's a premium account or whatever you can get, really important, I think, to have guidelines, criteria, get people to sign an AI policy internally. We have all of that at
Yeah.
because it's really important that they
It is.
understand the guidelines of the organization.
Yeah, yeah. And some of the other great applications I've seen. I talked to a company recently that uploaded all of their user manuals and their tech support scripts, and then used that to create basically a self-service portal. And
Wow.
and then it's great because it's utilizing all that background information to answer questions, and then also surfacing up data in a quick way of, here are some common themes, and let's now, okay, tell me the top 3 common themes, and let's write some blog posts about that and put it over here in a different place on our website. So how
Hmm.
can you use content and information that you already have to create a new deliverable or something to help the customer experience? So thinking out of the box like that is a good one.
Ooh, I like it. Well, Wendy, if people, I'm going to get into one more question for
Okay.
you, but if people want to contact you, how do they do that so they can
Yeah.
strategize with you or use your services?
Sure. So the best way is either LinkedIn. So I'm Wendy Covey, Covey, and also come on to True Marketing, and that's TREW Marketing. And we have a contact us form, and you can reach me both ways. But would love to talk to you guys about your unique marketing goals and challenges. So come on out, or come to the
Yay.
Industrial Marketing Summit and you can meet me in person. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, February 26th through 28th. And Jackie will be there. Yes. Come
Yes,
and
I'm
join us
hope.
in
Well,
Austin.
I'm hoping. I actually have a meeting in Ohio with a college out there, but I'm hoping to get back for one of the days.
Good.
Now, so where is it? In Austin, you
It's in
said?
Austin on the UT campus at the AT&T Executive Center, which has
Okay.
the best food, Jackie, like
Okay.
ridiculous. I think we had lamb chops one of the days, like ridiculously good food. And it
Hmm.
just so happens that it's held the same week as another electronics event. So people might already be coming to Austin into February. And if so, they could just extend by a couple days. We're both in the same location, so that makes it really easy.
Yes, I'd love that. Just tack it on there. So, my final question for you, since we're doing the We United podcast, is here we are, we united in our industry, and I'm always looking at what is our value here in this industry? What's our value proposition for members, for sponsors, for stakeholders, right? For industry. So, always paying a lot of close attention to this to understand year to year, are we relevant, are we current, are we adding value, right?
Yeah.
And it's just important for me to get honest answers from people, right? And so a stakeholder like you, we did not rehearse this ahead of time, but really would love to ask you, from where you sit in marketing, we like each other just as humans, but business wise, you're a marketing person, we do what we do, we trying to open opportunities for everyone,
Yeah.
and this leadership development organization, providing mentorship and all these things we do. How do you think that this directly relates in your world? Is
Yeah.
this something that is a synergy, or how do you see that, Wendy?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, we know that a lot of business is conducted by networking, right? People meeting
Hmm.
people and who you know. Let's
Yep.
face it, we'd love to say it's your value proposition or whatever, but at the end of the day, we're all
Mm.
humans. And like you said, like you and I really enjoy each other's company. And part of why we want to do business, we just enjoy each other.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to break into an industry that's had that developed
Yeah.
for years and years
True.
and years and
Yeah.
perpetuated for years and years. And that's the electronics
Yeah.
industry, right? And
Yes.
I don't want to put a label on it, but I mean that's it. So first and foremost, just providing a new and different forum for people to network and meet and experience career growth and business growth is a wonderful service. But then when I came to the leadership conference, I understood more deeply WE's mission and how you partner, how women and men work together to look at gender disparity, to look at gender issues, just communication and how we're different and how we work together. And that was another layer of the onion besides, hey, it's great. We could all do business together. We're in this club together, whatever. No, this is let's make a deeper impact on business success together. And that takes education. It takes repeating messages, getting in front of
Mm.
people in different ways. And what I heard at that leadership forum was just very powerful. And all of the speakers that supported that message with data, with stories. I love how you curated that. And I would love for more people to be exposed to that, that's maybe in a virtual environment or some other way. And I know you do a lot of virtual meetings too.
Mhm.
Maybe it's panel discussions at industry events, but those messages really hit home for me and added benefit to just us doing business together.
I really appreciate that. I never actually, I really haven't considered that as far as people having an opportunity to break into the industry through
Yeah.
our organization, and really meeting members that way. So appreciate that insight, Wendy, and we will continue to try to improve businesses through your organization of what you're doing. A massive can have a really big impact on a business success, and hopefully we'll do the same with our organization. So I really appreciate you being here today. I wish you all the best with your summit. I know it's going to be wildly successful, professional,
Thank
and I
you.
will catch you there probably on the second day.
All right, sounds good. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. And thank you for supporting the event and for all of us women in this industry, because it's unique and challenging, and I'm glad you're here for us.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we will catch you soon.